All right, so I'm here with Bill Steinberg, former mayor of Hampstead, and Dr. Steinberg. They're actually both doctors, but we're here today because my first question to you guys would be, who are you voting for in the upcoming election?
We're very eagerly going to be voting for Neil Oberman
Okay.
um, because, aside from the fact that he's a very good guy and honest and sincere, and he's going to do exactly what he's promising to do, we're also in favor of the Conservative Party because the Liberals have been an absolute disaster for the last 10 years. Um, and with Mark Carney, it's not going to be different. In fact, it's going to be even worse. Mark Carney is really very devious. He says, I'm going to get rid of the carbon tax, but he's putting it on companies, and those companies will raise their prices to cover the carbon tax. He's doing other silly things, like he says he's going to tax countries that are big polluters. So he's going to put tariffs on them. We already know how bad tariffs are. We're suffering from the tariffs coming from President Trump. So Mark Carney is just going to make it worse. He talks about he's going to build houses, prefab houses. The company he used to work for, Brookfield, has a division that builds prefab houses. This is just isn't honest.
Mm.
Whereas Pierre Poilievre, he's telling it exactly the way it is. He's going to do what he promises to do. So for that reason, we're definitely voting for Neil Oberman, the Conservative candidate in our riding.
And I just want to add something. Um, Carney is for net zero. He feels that the environment is more important than the economy. He wrote a book specifically about it. He's against all pipelines. So, all these things, which are very important for our economy, will be continued the way Trudeau was doing. And that's not good.
No, the most important thing we need now is a strong economy. We're weak. We're really weak. And so when President Trump comes and says, I'm going to put tariffs and we want to negotiate, we're negotiating from a very weak position. We have to strengthen our own economy. And only the conservatives are going to do that. The liberals under Carney, it'll be as bad as under Justin Trudeau. In fact, I think it'll be even worse. And they are putting sustainability, climate change, all these things, DEI, all this type of stuff at the top of their agenda. Whereas with the conservatives, the top item will be the economy, pipelines, getting oil out of the ground, gas out of the ground, selling to Europe, selling to the Pacific. It'll make Canada much, much stronger. And then we can negotiate with the United States.
All right, so there's no question that the past 8 years, Canadians have been suffering. If the Conservatives do get elected, how do you think people's lives are going to get better?
Well, first of all, uh, another thing the conservatives are doing is they're going to be tough on crime. Right now, under the liberals, uh, people go to jail and they're out before you know it. In many cases, they get bail immediately, and sometimes they commit other crimes, murders even, um, because they're released so quickly. With the conservatives, they're going to be serious. They're not going to be nearly as bad as it is in the United States, where people are locked up pretty much for the rest of their lives. They'll be much more reasonable than that, but they're going to be more tougher than the liberals are. The liberals are a farce, and
Mm.
that's why we have so much crime. It's increasing tremendously.
And do you think that the new policy that has been introduced, that Polyev is suggesting, if he is elected, which includes a three strikes and you're out policy for dangerous criminals, do you think this will help that current problem which you just mentioned?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't have people committing serious crimes, and his policy isn't any crimes. It's not three minor crimes,
Mm.
and you get 10 years sentence, minimum 10 years sentence. It's three serious crimes, things like rape, things like murder, manslaughter, serious crimes. Three of them. I mean, how much more do you need before you lock somebody up for a significant period of time? It's common sense. I know
Mm.
that's what they're saying, and that's what it is, plain common sense.
All right. Any other comments, thoughts?
Um, the other thing I think I mentioned it a minute ago, but a lot of people are saying, well, Mark Carney, he's so good. He was the head of the Bank of England, head of the Bank of Canada. But go look with the people who lived through his term at the Bank of Canada. They're calling him a reverse Midas. Instead of making gold, instead of increasing wealth, he decreased wealth when he was head of the Bank of England. And in Canada, when he was the governor and he's trying to take credit for dealing with the nasty recession, I think in 2008, but Stephen Harper, who was the prime minister, said this is terribly unfair. The person who made all the good decisions was his finance minister, not the governor of the Bank of Canada. The governor of the Bank of Canada can adjust interest rates, money supply, and that's it. The big decisions, the important things that were done by the finance minister at the time, and also because our banks weren't going to collapse because Canada has much greater capitalization policies for banks, unlike the States. In the States, it's much looser, and a lot of banks failed, but that didn't happen in Canada. So it had nothing to do with Mark Carney. He's just trying to take credit for it. Doesn't deserve it.
Okay, very interesting. I would like to mention and ask you what your thoughts are on the recent. Mark Carney recently actually decided to pause the carbon tax. What do you think he's trying to do by doing that?
Well, the carbon tax, the only thing he said is, look, everybody's against the consumer carbon tax. So, all right, I'm getting rid of it. And in the same breath, pretty much, he says, but I'm going to put in a new carbon tax on companies that pollute. And those companies obviously are going to pass those extra costs along to the consumers. So it's just being sneaky. He's trying to tell people, okay, I'm also against the carbon tax. He's not against the carbon tax. He's going to just put it in a different place. It's going to affect consumers just as much because his top priority is sustainability and the environment. It is not economics.
Okay. So, would you say that most of the carbon tax actually comes from big industry and not consumer? So, pausing consumer carbon tax actually doesn't do that much, correct?
It depends on the size of
Okay.
the carbon tax. Um, but either way, the point is he's trying to fool the people.
Mm.
And personally, I don't like it when a politician tries to fool the people. I was a politician, the mayor of Hampstead, 16 years, and I kept getting reelected because I told the truth. And it really bothers me when I see politicians that don't tell the truth.
Okay. Well, I think that's a great note to end it on. Thank you very much for the interview, and thank
Thank
you
you.
as well.
Thank you.